Let's get to it. Magic whipping out the Mongols, looking to make some voodoo magic happen. And oh my god, he must be magical. This guy's been praying to some dark demons because that spawn for ZertoN is ugly. Look at his gold.
Ooh, that is nasty. Truth be told, the gold spots are actually very similar for the two players. It's just the fact that you are playing a civilization, the French, which is so heavily reliant on the gold that such a gold spot is terrible for your start.
Yeah, you just double outpost this and then ZertoN can't do anything. Like that's problematic as well because it eliminates options. So hopefully ZertoN's going to identify this, see that, okay, I could be screwed by one tower and choose to just drop a Rax. I don't think it necessarily hurts you long term anyway because who really wants to be massing archers against French knights in the first place?
True that. Double scout opening from both players actually, so they seem to be pretty motivated to collect all the sheep out there, which is plentiful on this map. We often mention this map being the creation of Adney himself. His maps usually feature a lot more sheep than usual, so obviously that rush for the initial sheep is so crucial. And look at that, KP. Unconventional opening, but not unprecedented against the Mongols. You have to defend the gold mine.
Exactly, and also in the meantime, you know what else you have to do as the French? You have to go for your opponent's sheep. We have to remember, the French see the neutral trade posts through the fog. So he knew exactly where his opponent was. He darted to the right corner instantly with his scout. So he's actually grabbed more than Magic has. In fact, if we look at the count, I'm pretty sure it's going to be like at least a third more sheep in favor of the French player.
Yeah. Truth be told, it's not that big of a deal for the Mongols. If there is any civilization that's fine missing out on some of the sheep, it's probably the Mongols, because at one point they are going to have a couple of pastures added anyways to have some food under the town center. So Mongols will be fine missing out on some of the sheep. Not the biggest of deals, at least for them.
At the same time, that is a big investment for each pasture, right? Which you don't want to have to do because the thing that we highlighted is you're looking for a good, quick opening to apply pressure. And Magic is committing to that opening. You see, he's got the Rax, pumping Spearman. But what Magic doesn't know yet is that ZertoN set up this Rax. He intentionally put it behind the town center so it wouldn't get scouted.
Here comes the villager for the forward tower, supported by the two spearmen. Now, I don't think Magic has spotted the barracks, so little does he know that ZertoN is already set up to defend against that tower rush, and spearman number is right now dead even. Obviously, you're gonna get a discount on your spearmen as Magic because you train them in batches of 2. But ZertoN is the defender, so he's never gonna get outnumbered over here because it's much easier for him to reinforce.
Right now, ZertoN has the spear lead as well. I think he's read this perfectly. He's going to have enough to block out the outpost straight away, and Magic's just going to end up with a waste in spear investment and a waste in idle time for his villager.
Yup, in fact, he goes back home. He completely bails on this, but that's a big W for ZertoN. Not that big of an investment for ZertoN if you consider the fact that Magic has to walk all the way back home here, and this tower aggression is just going to be nothing. It's going to get destroyed even before it starts.
And this is a good step 1, but I think the next step that would be really cool for ZertoN is as he techs up, if he invests in more spears alongside the knights, right? I think that's a really good comp for the French. Really underrated, actually, because classically, French players always go for the archer cav comp.
Yeah, for sure. And the key thing is that if you add spearmen as the French, what can the Mongols do against that? Like, try to match it with their own spears, maybe, but they have to add archers, and that's not something that the Mongols want to do in large quantities, because in the end, ZertoN just wants to go full knights, and if you go too heavy on the archers as the Mongols, you will just get overrun by knights. So forcing the Mongol player to add archers by going for your own spears is actually a pretty good value indeed for the French.
And the cool thing actually about going for this comp instead of the alternative archer one is you drop a blacksmiths and your whole army gets buffed, which is pretty cool, actually. It'll give them an edge if they both go for similar kind of comps as well. But right now, it's just turning into Spearman Warfare. And I'm scared, actually, for Magic because of that melee tech upgrade that will be free for ZertoN once they both reach Feudal.
Yeah, that is going to be a big factor. In fact, that might warrant ZertoN to add the blacksmith as he reaches Feudal Age, because given how many spears he already has, you could justify just dropping the blacksmith immediately for that upgrade so he can get himself a little bit more momentum.
Also, Magic, interestingly enough, going for a very early wheelbarrow. It feels like a lot of Mongol players actually forgo this and just try to get the tech up quicker and then get Yam as a a kind of stopgap instead of wheelbarrow. So kind of curious to see that.
Yeah, I guess he saw the amount of spearmen that ZertoN went for, so he's fully aware that ZertoN's feudal age is also going to be slower, so you can justify squeezing in that wheelbarrow a little bit more, because you know that it's not only your feudal age that's going to be delayed.
Yeah, is it that delayed though? Like, look at the difference in resources right now. ZertoN is making his way up. Magic may have been baited in here. He went up to 12 spears.
Yeah, he really wants to do some pressure on that gold mine, but I don't think it's paying off. And do keep in mind, he is very low on stone. He used all the double training that he could have had, but fight now coming up.
This fight actually isn't as good for Magic as you'd think. Like, he has a spear lead if you look at the top of the screen, but not in this battle. The rest of them are at home still, so that was a bad fight for Magic to take. He jumped the gun.
Yeah, reinforcements just now coming in here, but this is the big point here. ZertoN is holding off 12 spearmen with 10, and now Magic, being relatively low on stone, many of the spearmen he made, those were made one by one, so he paid full price for them just as much as ZertoN did.
I just want to like correct the detail that it wasn't 10 versus 12. That's the problem once again. I think the last fight, Magic was missing about 4 of the spearmen. Even that clash that was going to happen there, 2 to 3 spearmen weren't there. It's really great read by ZertoN. The other thing I love is this line formation. It allows him to disengage quicker, which means the Khan isn't slowly whittling him down.
Yeah, it also helps a lot to try and get a good wraparound and be the guy being on the outside, and as you said, allows you to pull back your ins a little bit easier, possibly even isolate 1 or 2 spearmen from IamMagic that you can pick off before he can pull them back.
And now the other annoying part for Magic is he has to peel more spearmen back to deal with the nuisance of the scout, because that damage will add up on the UV over time. Only now taking up from behind means options available to ZertoN. You can see he's going to upgrade his spearmen first of all and go on the march, because the issue now, no archery range prepped yet. And by the time you get it up, these spears could be on top of you.
Indeed, look at that. 14 versus 13 spearmen. Not something that you see every day. Maybe from Mongols you do with the 14, but French going 14 spearmen at the 7-minute mark, that's unconventional. And you already have a range out there. This actually reminds me a little bit to the game that Give You Anxiety has once played with the French, where he just went spears and archers. He loves his spears and archers with the English. That got banned away from him, so he went French and did the exact same thing.
This actually reminds me of a show match between Salami and Divine DFP from the other week, and it's a French mirror, because it actually happens in the French mirror as well. You go knights, but then you go back for spears, and you just keep massing spears and more until one blinks. The tough part for Magic is he doesn't have the variability to go cavalry, right? So he has to make the predictable transition to archers. Now ZertoN can choose. Does he go for archers himself, or does he go knights? Seems like he's going to go archers, which is kind of cool, actually, because his economy will slowly be better than Magic's, right? Because he's playing the French.
Yeah, he is lacking wheelbarrow, that's a factor to consider, but yeah, in the long run, ZertoN's gonna be happy with this. As long as he's not getting actively pushed by Magic, he's gonna be fine. Right now, villager counts are dead even, actually, so he's yet to capitalize on the faster training villagers of the French, but once he secures that stone mine for himself, which is gonna happen right now, he's going to start working his way towards the second town center.
I actually like this. I mean, you need the multi-TC approach. I want to see which way he does this, though, because he's got a lot of spearmen. He might go for a more aggressive TC and then fall back for a third. That is quite popular with the French on Frisian, especially if they're given mid-map, which, you know, the French, in most matchups, they just are.
I think he can go to the south of the pawns with that TC. He sees that Magic is now playing defensive with his army. He has scouted the army falling back, so there is nothing from the south that could possibly harass him. In fact, the aggressor now will be ZertoN, trying to poke and prod. Shouldn't be able to accomplish much here, though, with the archers there for Magic.
Yeah, Magic needs to be careful, though, because his archer count isn't that impressive. ZertoN, I think, is hiding most of his archers.
Yeah.
He's actually up to 10, so he's doubling down in comparison to Magic. And the other issue with that prolonged Dark Age, extra passive stone was going with spears instead of archers, so this power spike in feudal for the Mongols isn't as high as it maybe could have been.
Yeah, indeed. It slows down your escalation of archers, and you see not all of those archers are being trained in batches of 2. If ZertoN has all the archers on the battlefield, he can take this fight, but he has some of the reinforcements being slow to catch up to the main force, so for now it's a dance back and forth with neither of the players willing to commit.
The key part here is vision. Magic actually has eyeballs in the base of the French, but he has it on the wrong side of the base, so he doesn't know about the stone gathering just yet. Flash is going to come in. A little bit of a kerfuffle on both sides. Archers are going to commit for the moment. As you can see, the count is still with ZertoN, but he just wants to try and push back past the gold vein to idle some eco. More importantly, he wants to draw all attention here so that Magic doesn't know what ZertoN's doing at home.
Yeah, exactly. That's the key thing. It's kind of that passive-aggressive playstyle for ZertoN. He's the aggressor, but all he's doing with this is just conceding the fact that he's going for a second town center, and... Oh, no. Oh, no. Villagers, hello? Okay.
Okay, they're working it. But they're working berries, man.
That's bad.
Berries!
And look at the south. ZertoN's gonna be on the shorefish with the town center. That is gonna be a massive discrepancy when it comes to the food eco, and this is a town center that's not even contested, completely unscouted by IamMagic, and it's starting to spell disaster for Magic. He's gonna have no idea that he's going to be behind on town center count, possibly on villager count as well. And he is going to have a way worse food eco than ZertoN does.
And how confident do you think ZertoN is in this game on a scale of 1 to 10? 10 being he is just naked on top of his house saying, I'm king of the world.
How about a 7?
Really?
Yeah.
I think he's at 9. Look at that TC. That's why. How often do you see someone in this type of situation drop a TC? Yes, it's double fish, but the stealth forest and his secondary TC is really risky. He's so content that Magic can't get out of his base that he went for probably the more greedy TC option in that area.
Well, he has non-stop vision on the entire army of Magic, so he knows fully well that there's nothing to challenge that town center with. So that's probably part of the reason why he went for that. A couple of archers actually getting picked off here. Some freebies. Beautiful freebies those are for Magic.
Yeah, but the logic here is like Magic will eventually get knights, right? So that should be a threat. You're still not walled up. There's an open map, and if you go look at that TC I'm talking about, you'll see exactly what I mean. There's a stealth forest right in front of it that you can't see through, right? It says, okay, man, he deleted this, ignore me. The point is wrong. Psych! He can't... can we actually fix stealth forest, Relic? Can we just look at that stealth forest and appreciate how somehow he can't see through the right side, despite the fact that he should be able to see through the right side based on visuals?
Yeah, it looks a little wacky. But as long as he keeps track of Magic's army, it's not going to be a concern. What could be a concern for him is that now Magic is going into Castle Age, and right now, ZertoN's army is looking nice and cool with the archers and spearmen, but once Men-at-Arms makes it to the battlefield, it's a whole different story.
Oh, what if ZertoN actually just doubles down and goes now, actually? He's adding in knights, he has double TC, his army is close to just being bigger than Magic, so there is an opportunity where he closes out this game before Magic even gets the premium units online.
And remember, the gold mine is exposed. If you time it well, you can cut the gold off from Magic so you can't afford the premium units in Castle.
Oh, he baited the rapid arrow as well. Barely any value there. So Magic, the extra attack speed is wasted. He at least has Yam, which is great. You want to know why Lidakor? It lets you run away. You want to know why it's bad here, though? You're already in your own base.
Well, Castle Age is in, but there it goes. You can just deny the gold mine.
Yeah, he commits. He has to here. Knights are going to follow up behind this. Spears aren't in the mixer just yet. Only from ZertoN. Magic is holding his own back. For some reason, he's at least pumping the lances, and villagers are going to begin the peasant rebellion here, but not really the fight you want to commit them to. This is the second game in the series where Magic was looking to get frisky with the villagers. At least this time around, he quickly decides it's a bad idea.
Yeah, Tower helping out here with the arrow slits as well, but it's just the pure numbers for Magic. ZertoN may have had some numerical advantage, but it's far from being sufficient to push into the tower with.
Yeah, he felt like he got a little bit ambitious there, right? The spears weren't in a position to instantly get on top of targets. The archer count, negligible. But you understand why he makes this move. He has to block that gold, otherwise all these units get tech upgraded anyway, at which point ZertoN can't win the fight.
Yeah, but it's too little too late. Those upgrades will come in now because there's access for Magic to the gold, and the premium units, Knights and Men-at-Arms, they will also make an appearance.
Knights now showing up for ZertoN, but irrelevant. They're not even getting the charges off. Too many spearmen. He gets ambushed in the stealth forest. Even though he has vision, he turns around for maybe a fight that he shouldn't here. And all of a sudden, Magic now gaining momentum. Military pop cap lead is increasing, and ZertoN is trying to replace the losses with premium Knights. However, that means the spears and lances of Magic should be able to get good wins back to back here.
Yeah. ZertoN is doing his best to pick off those spearmen, but he's still getting forced back, and Magic is fine with that, because all Magic wants right now is a bit of a safety so he can actually go for the shorefish instead of the berries, so that he can get a couple more Lancers out and possibly even start working his way towards the relics, so he could offset the villager difference there is between the two players.
Relics is definitely the goal, and the only problem he's going to have is because ZertoN's now switching into Knights. He could intercept, so Magic's only option is to really get close to the base and keep ZertoN at home defending. Good news for that strategy. Right now, ZertoN needs to defend with Knights because he has no front line otherwise.
Yeah, for now, ZertoN is holding. Problem is that he's investing all his gold into Knights, so he's not getting closer to Castle Age right now. Tech advantage in the long run will be on the side of Magic by a massive margin.
I mean, this fight right now is good for ZertoN. Magic baits himself to turn around with a brace. He didn't realize that there was a scout on the north side, so the archers saw all of that. Means that the Knights on the French side are going to get a good trade. Lancers now are engaging, but they are outnumbered. There's no Spearman here to assist anymore, and this fight is going to be a bad one for Magic. All of a sudden, things turn around, and ZertoN is now gaining momentum.
Yeah, good momentum there in the middle. Magic detached a couple of his Lancers to raid, though, and he could punish this exposed eco now. Nice reaction from ZertoN, still will lose a couple of villagers in the process.
It's a tough one. You can't pull the Knights back right now. You need to just keep pushing forward is the issue. Sure, you're going to take a hit here, but you have 2 DCs, right? If you hit the base of Magic, you can do just as much damage back the other way. But hesitation is setting in. He actually peels back and tries to defend his eco lead instead. And we've talked about why this is usually a bad idea, but it seems like he feels he can have the better scalability if he just parks himself instead.
Yeah, but a lot of idle time there as well. Not only did ZertoN lose a bunch of villagers, he has 14 idols right now, so his eco is no longer as good as Magic's is actually. Keep in mind that Magic does have the step redoubt to boost his gold miners, so the 52 villager count that you see at the top of the screen is actually way more than that in reality. Right now, dare I say, Magic might even have the better eco among the 2 players.
Oh, absolutely. He's got the step read out. He's also fishing with his secondary TC, right? So that eco lead isn't really building for ZertoN as much anymore. Now, thing to consider is Wheelbarrow plus Yam. ZertoN doesn't even have Wheelbarrow. In fact, at this point, it feels like he actually forgot about it by accident.
Oh, look at that. Beautiful raid out here.
And he was just playing the wall as well. This is the worst possible timing for him. Now, I think he might have textiles in these villages, so he's somewhat mitigating the losses, but it's still a situation where you build up this healthy lead, and it's no longer escalating. And now, because you're defending your own base, Magic should be able to freely start picking up these relics.
Yeah, that's the key thing here. Magic is pinning the French player inside his base, and do keep in mind, French is a tempo-aggressive civilization. They have to be the tempo setters, they have to be the aggressors, and right now, ZertoN just can't do that because he's always trying to play catch-up with those Lancers that are raiding his base. And now Magic is up to 11 Lancers himself, so he actually has better Knight numbers than ZertoN does.
It feels like Magic. At one stage, he was going to go mass crossbows, but I love the fact he just doubled down on Lancers, you know? It kind of feels like your classic French player when you first start playing the game. Me build Knights, me win. But it actually is the way you win this matchup right now. Because ZertoN, he's forced to split his Knights across the map, and his archers can't defend his base. And also, he's playing pocket ecos left, right, and bloody center, which is something that Magic can now exploit with this mass cavalry.
Indeed, Magic up to 14 Knights, shifting to the south over here, spotting the juicy fishing eco. But there's going to be a clash of Lancers in the middle, actually. Nice reaction by ZertoN.
Interesting choice. He's the maneuver arrow instead of the defense arrow here. But the clash is still going to be decent for Magic. He's got the extra HP on him, and I don't think many of these Knights actually got the charge off. In fact, they are going to get rinsed. Look at the heavy cavalry change there. 6 Knights remain for ZertoN, 13 for Magic. Worst case scenario, considering ZertoN is now spread out all across the map with his villages.
That's the big thing. We're now looking at 2 town centers for both players, relics coming in for Magic, so the eco lead is no longer going to be there for ZertoN. We talked about this. Magic now has the eco lead. And the bigger thing is that the Lancer numbers are now looking better, so it's going to be very difficult for ZertoN to just keep track of those Lancers that would just poke and prod and every once in a while hit his eco.
And this walling idea is great, but maybe a little bit too delayed. There's still open areas to breach through, and also there's enough Lancers now that they can just make their way through anywhere. Kind of feels like maybe ZertoN should have tried to invest in a few spearmen along the way, because I think he's going to run into issues down the line here. Especially considering there are still already Lancers inside his bloody base. Okay, he's at least going to get that one. More or less. But this is getting uncomfortable, and I love what Magic does here. Straight onto the Sacred Sites, he says it's time to turn the screws.
I love this too. Only 2 Sacred Sites on this map to control, and even if you can't win the game on the Sacred Site victory condition, you at least force your opponent to make a move. You put him onto a timer, and when the timer is ticking in the bottom left corner, it makes things much more frustrating for ZertoN because he knows he's gonna have to make a move very soon.
The problem is, with that tech up come through, Magic will now know how much stronger he is. Gonna try to raid through. we'll get the bad news. There's a lot of walling going on here, but with so many Lancers, he could potentially just burn his way through. The question mark is what ZertoN's going to do in the meantime, because his Knights are out looking for blood as well on the Sacred side.
Yeah, he might have just have been baited into going for that Sacred side, actually. He saw the Sacred side being kept, sent out the Knights to kill the Shaman. Little did he know that there's a counterattack coming that threatens his food eco.
But just repair. Just no, more people, more. Oh no, I don't think ZertoN realized this is not enough. That's not going to keep the wall alive. He's trying to get the Knights across the Archers as well, but this many Lancers will win this battle. He's in.
What?
He bats away, what? No way. Magic, he hesitates in the end. He's looking to peel back a little bit. Will now overwhelm, realize there's not enough Knights here. Archers looking like they're going to be sacrificed, and the Great Migration begins. The wheelbarrow-less ZertoN has to run. That hurts to watch.
Even with all the hesitation out there, the value is massive over here for these Lancers, and Magic realized that the army of ZertoN is much less capable than he anticipated it to be. Basically no Knights left for ZertoN. Arbaletier, only a handful of them on the battlefield, and the casualties are in the magnitude of dozens right now for ZertoN.
It's going to be soon anyway. Oh, he almost gets the pinch just through the small choke points. The Archers are able to escape. Now, Arbaletier are at least starting to funnel out a little bit, but the bigger concern is if you don't hold this area, that gold line is going to be exposed. Even if it survives, let's keep in mind long-term ZertoN, what he's doing here is not sustainable. Arbaletier and Knights, that's a lot of gold, and you have no big gold vein secured yet.
Yeah, look at that. Gold miners now exposed as well, having to run for their lives.
Where is the wheelbarrow? Where? Maybe it's in game 4.
Such a clinic from Magic. And as you said, the key thing from ZertoN was that he doubled down on the aggression, tried to punish Magic's Castle Age, but he really wasn't able to. Tried to push into the tower, but he didn't have the critical mass to overwhelm. And once Magic got to Castle Age, he regained momentum, the premium units started paying for their price, and in the end, ZertoN, having to play pocket ecos, he was just left way too exposed for those Lancer raids. If you take a look at the villager graph, you can see why ZertoN tapped out of this one. He, at least on paper, had the lead even at the end of the game, but he just had no tools to defend.